So this is just going to be a short video about my last 18 months. I'm going to cover the following things. I'm going to cover why I moved to the Philippines, and then I'm going to talk about my last 18 months in the Philippines, the advantages of living in the Philippines, disadvantages of living here, and some of my future plans. So why did I move to the Philippines? Basically, in 2018, I had issues at work. I won't go into those issues, but after 6 months, I quit. And also my relationship at the time wasn't going too well. So I kind of quit that too. And I was talking to a friend of mine in Norway about future plans. And I said, hey, why don't we just go to the Philippines? And I planned, you know what? I'm just going to take a year off. I had savings, and I decided, to spend a year in the Philippines, enjoy life, then go back to work. So that, in short, is why I decided to come here. And if you want to see more of a description of actually what happened and everything and why I moved, you can see that in the description below. So the next I want to talk about is what I've been doing here for the last 18 months. So when I first came here, I came to Cebu City and rented a penthouse in a hotel. Me and my childhood friend, we shared it, and we were planning on staying there for 2 weeks and then moving to Dumaguete. Now, we didn't have a place to live in Dumaguete. We found it very hard from the US or Norway trying to find a place. It's a lot easier now, but it was very hard back then. And so we didn't find a place. And so after 1 or 2 days in Cebu City, I actually went to Dumaguete and drove around Dumaguete trying to find a place. And I found some places. The price wasn't right. The place just wasn't up to standard. I just didn't find the standard I was looking for at the price I was looking for. Anyway, I came back to Dumaguete, and once I got back to Dumaguete, basically my friend had left and with his girlfriend, and that's love turns you blind, I guess. And they moved to Bohol, and I kind of decided to stay in Cebu City till and one of the reasons I decided to stay in Cebu City is that I was given an assignment, and I had to get going on that assignment, and I didn't want to spend too much time looking for a place in Dumaguete or considering Bohol or other cities. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to stay in Cebu City, work on my assignment, and in between work, travel forward and backward to Bohol, because since my friend had gone to Bohol, I thought, you know what, maybe I'll move there. I went to Bohol a couple of times, and it's nice, but after being in Dumaguete, I kind of decided, you know what, I had read a lot about Dumaguete. I had watched a lot of videos about Dumaguete. This blogger that I followed for many years lived in Dumaguete. So I'd seen a lot of Dumaguete, and I felt more of a maybe comfort factor living here. And so I decided to stay here. And I found a place, and that was about 23 square meters. So basically, I moved from a 300 square meter house to a 23 square meter apartment, which was fine because sorry, I wanted to be a minimalist, so that was a good way of becoming a minimalist in short order. So I moved to that apartment, which was actually very cozy, and I found it very nice because it was very sociable. I had a lot of neighbors. One was Canadian. I got to know him very well, and we hung out a lot. And so I made many good friends, and till this day I moved from that apartment to a house, but I still have a lot of friends from those days where I lived in the apartment, and we still stay in touch, and when they're in Dumaguete, we go hang out. So it's nice to live in a place like that because you get to know a lot of people and you have more of a social life. So anyway, after I moved to Dumaguete, I kept working on my application, and at the same time I started traveling. So I traveled to many places, and I made a list here so I don't forget it. I traveled to Malbol, which is in Cebu, the island of Cebu. I traveled to Apo Island, which is an island just outside of Negros. I went back to Cebu City twice or three times and stayed there 1 to 3 nights just to do some shopping and enjoy more of the city life. I went to Bayawan, stayed in Darwin, I went to Bacolod a couple of times, and to Bohol. So those are the, oh yeah, and I went to Siquijor also. So been many places, and also I bought a big bike, and that's what you can see here. That's in the background. That's me driving my Ninja 650, and I'd never had a big bike, so that was kind of exciting, actually kind of scary to begin with. It's a lot of power in that bike, and if you don't know how to control it, it can be, yeah, it can be scary. I almost dropped the bike once, but that was at a very slow speed. But yeah, so traveled a lot, gone on a lot of bike rides with a friend of mine, and with my girlfriend, and with his girlfriend sometimes, and so I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I've been here, I've eaten out a lot. We've gone to restaurants all the time. We go have coffees. We sit in the coffee shop for hours sometimes doing work. So it's just a nice life here, and it's relatively cheap compared to living in the States or Europe for that matter. So that brings me to point number 3. And one of the advantages of living here is actually I find the let's see, yeah, the cost of living here, I would say it's probably a half to a third of what the cost of living is in the US and some places in Europe, especially Norway, compared to Norway, which is very expensive. The other thing, of course, here is the nature is completely different. It's more of a tropical and a lot of underwater nature, as you can see in some of the videos that I've posted. I've gone free diving. I've never actually gone diving with the bottles, but I've gone free diving. I was supposed to sign up for some classes, but then things happened, so I never got to it. But I've done free diving, which is a lot of fun also. Of course, the women here are just mind-blowingly beautiful. Slim, beautiful, kind. I mean, they're like, I don't know how to say this, but like out of a dream world compared to living in the West. There's no comparison. The weather here is amazing because, you know, it's pretty much between, I'd say, and this is in Celsius, and don't ask me to put it in Fahrenheit, but you can Google that. Usually between 25 on the cold side to about 33, 34 on the hot side. But humid, which a lot of people don't like humidity. I love humidity. The other thing is the social life here. It's easy to get to know people. You make friends easy because, you know, people coming from other countries, they don't have a network, so they're looking to make friends. Unlike going to Europe or the US, most people there already have a network. So they're not looking to make friends, so it's harder. And also you get very busy with work there, so you don't really have the time and effort to put into it. And the other thing is the social life. The people here are very kind, smiling, good-natured. So I found overall, you know, if you're gonna measure a country and give it points from 0 to 10, you take everything into account. Everything I mentioned about cost and nature, women, weather, social life, etc. I think it put the Philippines up at an 8. The disadvantages of living here basically are it's very disorganized here. So whatever you do here takes a long time. If anything to do with the government, it's going to take time. So in the US, you might go do it online, it's 5 minutes, it's done. Here, you have to count at least half a day to get anything done. From turning on internet to turning off internet to paying bills, it just takes a long time. But if you're retired, you have time, and if you do it with a smile and think this is part of living here, this is, you know, this is part of the charm in a way. You won't get so upset about it. Now, if you're like, when I came here, I just want to get stuff done, you know, I'm used to work and stuff, it can be a bit irritating in the beginning, but you kind of get used to it after a while, so it becomes part of the rhythm, the life rhythm here. The other thing that really got me is how much fake stuff there is here. I mean, I've got fake memory cards. It's supposed to be class 10. If you know what a memory class 10 is, it's basically you can read and write to memory really fast. And you need that on something like a GoPro. And, you know, I've been assured that it's a class 10, you get it. It doesn't work on GoPro. It works on a tablet, you test it out, it's not a class 10. I've ordered honey online, and in the shops I've bought honey, and they're fake. I mean, you can taste the sugar that's added, you can taste the additives that's added. It's not real honey, you know. And the funny thing is that most Filipinos don't know the taste of real honey. So like if you go to Shopee or Lazada and order honey, you'll see a lot of 5-star honey, but I don't think those guys have really tasted, you know, real honey. So a lot of fake items, which kind of worries me, because, you know, if I order vitamins online, are they fake? If I order my protein that I use for a workout, is that fake? Is it added stuff? And then you start thinking about your health and all that. So that's kind of a worrisome side here that I really, really dislike. And like when I go to the store and I read the ingredients, I wonder to myself, are these ingredients even real or not real? You know, it says, you know, think of some brand name, for example, Skippy peanut butter. Is it really Skippy peanut butter? You know, it tastes like Skippy peanut butter, and I hope it is, you know, but it just puts a bad feeling in you, because to me, the most important thing is health. And if you're putting trash in you, well, it's not going to positively affect your health. So that's one of the things I really, really dislike in this country. The other thing is that I've noticed, I didn't notice it so much in the beginning because I was so infatuated by the country and all the positives. But the longer you live here, I think the more you notice the negatives and the more the small things affect you. And that is trash. There's a lot of, maybe a lot is not the right word, but certain places you'll see a lot of trash. Like you'll be walking in nature and you'll see trash. Like people walking and they might be eating something, you know, in plastic, and they'll just throw it. I mean, they'll literally just be walking, someone in front of you, and boom, they throw it. Like the whole place is a trash can. And it really drives me. There's something in me that just is fuming. I saw this child once, and she was on her bike, and she threw something, and I told her off, and she picked that thing up and drove away, I think almost crying, because I don't know, it's just like, you know, this country is so beautiful, and when people trash it, I feel, you know, you should have some pride in your country. And when you just throw trash in nature, when you just throw trash in the water, it means you have no pride in your country. It means you don't love that country. And I wish the Filipinos that would do that would understand this simple concept. And I wish they would have more emphasis in schools and places how important it is to keep your country clean. So anyway, I don't want to ramble too much about that, but that's one of the things that has gotten to me. The other thing was food security. Going to restaurants and all that, there's some fantastic food when you go out, but I always wonder about ingredients they're putting in there because of all the fake items, and it kind of worries me. I can't say I've had any bad experiences with that. I mean, I've had some really good experience when it comes to food here, like really tasty food. But it's always in the back of my head, like, can I really trust this food? Can I really trust the ingredients? Like, what are they putting in there? And it's just, there is no standard the way it is in Western Europe and in the US. Also, there's no, like, you know, they have, you know, when you go to the kitchens in the US, they have people that go in and do monthly checkups, weekly checkups, surprise checkups to make sure places are clean. And if they're not clean, they shut them down. I don't know if they have that in the Philippines. I've never heard about it. I've been in the back of some of these kitchens, and there's flies flying around everywhere. And once I see that, I don't go back to that specific restaurant. But yeah, sometimes it's better not to know these things. But anyway, enough about that. But if I was going to give a score between 0 and 10 living in the Philippines, it would have to be 7 or 8. There are some cons, but there are a lot of pluses. And the things that are cons, you find ways around it. You find good restaurants. You hope you can trust those restaurants. You find places online you can order honey. I found one place, and I know it's real. So you find certain things, you find certain vendors. It takes time, but eventually you get there. So you get around that. Oh yeah, the other thing I didn't mention about cons about living here is driving, especially in a place like Dumaguete. I'm not sure about other places, but it can be really dangerous, and especially at night. If you can avoid driving at night here, avoid it. I mean, I see some of the most horrific things at night. People, I mean, it'll be pitch black and people will be driving these scooters with no lights on, either because they can't afford to buy a light bulb, or because somehow they've heard somewhere that if they drive without lights they save on gas. So you know, it's just, and then there's dogs on the side of the road that suddenly run out, there's chickens that suddenly run out. So you just got to be real careful. You got to keep your eyes on the road, constantly scanning, constantly thinking what to do if something happens. So driving over here can be very dangerous. The advantage is in driving in a place like Dumaguete that the speed is very slow. I mean, a maximum going 50 kilometers an hour, which is about 33 miles an hour. So it's not high speed. Now, if you're driving kind of on the highways, like driving towards Darwin, some places have 4 lanes. So yeah, you can drive a bit faster. Still dogs in the streets. Still at night there'll be people driving without lights. So I would not drive without any lights. And if you do drive at night, severely reduce your speed. And even then, you can't trust the traffic here. And the weird thing is here is that the police will stop people for not wearing a mask. But hey, if you're driving without lights at night, no one stops you. You know, it's kind of mind-blowing. But that's just the way it is here, and you have to accept it. There's nothing you can do about it. So those are some of the cons, and that's why the Philippines doesn't get a 10 out of 10. But, you know, maybe that will change with the future. I've seen some positive changes after the coronavirus quarantine. They're becoming more strict when it comes to certain things. And I hope it continues. I hope they give people fines for driving recklessly and driving without lights. But that's another thing here in the Philippines. They don't seem to implement the laws. There are actually laws against driving without lights, but they don't seem to implement it, at least not here in Dumaguete. And so people do it. Now, when it comes to my future, I have kind of decided to leave the Philippines, and the reason for that is I really like it here, but there are certain cons, and I want to try some other countries, to be honest. I've thought about going to Malaysia. A good friend of mine is moving to Malaysia to become an English teacher. Now, the pay is nothing to write home about. But like in his job, as an example, he's only working 24 hours. He's got 9 weeks vacation, and he gets paid on that vacation time. So that would be actually a fantastic job to combine like a work and free time relationship. And that's something I could see myself doing. I've tried teaching English online, and it was just like nothing exciting, nothing to write home about. But maybe if I do it a bit more, I'll get into it more. Not sure. The other thing I've thought about is actually going to Norway, and I lived in Norway for 15 years, from when I was 14 to 29, so I can speak Norwegian fluently. I know the culture, I know it, I'm as Norwegian as the next person born in Norway. So I kind of miss Norway. I miss the food, I miss the people, I miss the nature, the organization, I miss the snow. So I thought about going there, working there. I mean, my plan is to work maybe 5 more years, and then maybe after that go to Malaysia or the Philippines or Vietnam or something. But yeah, that's kind of my plan. Or I might end up staying here, because I mean it is pretty good here, but I'd like to try something once the Philippines opens up. If I'm not in Norway, the other place I've been thinking about is Spain. My mother lives in Spain, and I've lived in Spain and been there many times, and I love Spain. I love the culture. I love the food. I love the nature. So it's a lot of good things in Spain. And I probably don't have the job opportunities I have in a place like Norway, make the kind of money I would make in Norway. And also they have a fantastic retirement system in Norway. So I don't know, it's a hard decision, but I think I'll just let fate decide where I go. If I get a job in Norway, I will move to Norway. If something happens and we decide to go to Spain, we might go to Spain. If maybe Malaysia or maybe here. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to work things and see where that goes. The other thing I started doing, I didn't mention this, but I'm a petroleum engineer. I've worked in oil and gas industry for about 20 years, and I've started taking classes online again. And reading up. It's been 2 years since I worked almost now, so I've started reading up again. And the oil industry is really down, but it has a tendency to turn around, and when it first turns around, they need a lot of people. So I wasn't really planning on going back in the oil industry, but who knows? Like I said, I really haven't decided anything. I'm just taking this quarantine time to decide and do a bit of everything. Do a bit of YouTubing, do a bit of reading, building a website, and so on. So just kind of enjoying life. So that's it. That's what I've been doing for the last 18 months. I've been kind of enjoying life, working a bit, deciding what to do for the next few years, dating. I'm not dating anymore. I have a girlfriend. I've been with her for about a year, and just enjoying life. So yeah, was it a good decision to move to the Philippines? I would say absolutely. Absolutely a good decision. I love it here, and the only thing I miss from the US, to be honest, is the organization, the professionalism, and I miss working. That's one thing I do miss. I miss working in a work environment, a professional work environment, the way I was working. So, but otherwise, I would take the Philippines over the US any day. So yeah, that's it, and hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the background of me riding the motorbike and some scenery there. And I hope you subscribe, share, and like. And if you don't like, tell me why you don't like it. Thanks. Bye-bye. I'll see you next time.